Hebrews 11, I'm going to read the text again. I want to be a help to you. Sometimes I don't, in fact I know there's no way that even a church our size, many times you have no clue what's going on with the people in the church. And things. So, whereas I, as pastor, know a whole lot more of what's going on with everybody. And so I know when, a lot more of what's happening, and can many times messages and things are, because I know what's going on. I know people, for instance now, the message today is, I get it, what preacher you're preaching at me. I know many times I'm helping those that I know that needs help, and there's some that I didn't know about that have the same problem. But even today on the message on enduring, I wish I could sometimes get up here and say, hey, let me tell you about this family that's going on here in the church, what they're going through. Let me tell you what this family's going through. Let me tell you what this family's going through. Let me tell you what this person's going through. Let me tell you what this person's going through and such. But I cannot do that, all right? I can't. So I guess you have to trust me that when I preach these messages, I'm preaching honestly, when I pray, what God wants me to give. And such, and so if it pertains to you, get it, use it, and apply it. If it does not pertain to you at the time, get it, hide it in your heart, and so that when it does apply to you, you can pull it up and it'll be a help to you. So just be patient with me here this morning. As we look at this, I'm going to speak on how can I endure. How can I endure? Look at verse number 27 again here. The Bible says, by faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. And let's pray and we'll get started. Lord, please help me now, I pray. Holy Spirit, please bless. Please, God, I pray for your help, for your guidance, and for your direction. Lord, please bless today. Holy Spirit, please fill me now, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I believe personally that Moses was probably one of the greatest leaders recorded in the Bible. If you think about what Moses had accomplished, he helped free and led probably close to a couple million Jews to the promised land. Moses was not one that was born into a royal family where he would inherit a leadership position. Moses, from his birth to his death, endured many, many trials. Moses, from his birth to his death, endured many heartaches, endured many temptations, and all the while becoming the leader in leading the children of Israel. You think about it. As a baby, Moses was put in a basket and placed in a river. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had a daughter that saw the basket floating in the river and fetched it out. So she took Moses to raise. Now when Moses was of age then Moses refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And he chose rather to suffer of the affliction of the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Moses stood up for one of his Hebrew brothers who was being unfairly beaten. And in so doing, he killed the Egyptian soldier. Now, instead of being a hero for doing this, his own brethren turned on him. And such. And so Moses then had to flee for his life. Moses goes to the land of Midian. It is there that he meets his wife. Moses becomes a family man and minding his own business and just going about what in raising a family and doing the things that needs to be done, he sees a burning bush. This burning bush was not consumed. It kept burning and burning and burning. So he goes to the bush. He then is called by God to go free his brethren from bondage in Egypt and lead them to the promised land. Now, if you look at Moses' life, you'll find that Moses had many enduring trials and temptations and many setbacks. I mean, think about it. Even the 10 plagues that Moses, that God put on Egypt and such. Even those 10 plagues, you realize that 9 of those plagues were setbacks for Moses? 9 of them were. 9 out of 10 of those plagues were setbacks. What happened every time? Every time he'd go, turn the water into blood, what happened? Pharaoh's magicians did it, and he wouldn't let the children of Israel go. He, each plague, all the way up to the death of the firstborn, each one of those first 9 plagues were setbacks because Pharaoh would not let the people go. So every one of those were setbacks. I know many times when we look at our life and we examine our life and we think, it's been rough, it's been tough, and such. And a lot of times we think in our life that, we've had to endure a lot, or we're enduring a lot. But the truth of the matter is, our life is a walk in the park compared to Moses' life. None of us in here, I don't think, had to be hid as a baby out of fear of being killed or crocodile bait. I don't think anybody had to have that happen. None of us had to have to make a choice of keeping the riches or live in poverty. Moses did. None of us have had to face a Red Sea moment in our life where there was nowhere to turn, where everybody was attacking you and you were about to die and you had to solely rely upon God to part a sea. I don't think any of us have ever had to experience that. Can you imagine? Think about this. Can you imagine what it'd be like to try to appease a couple million rebellious worldly Jews? Think about it. Look, I tell people, I said, I don't know, and I've told pastors and stuff, and people say, look, I know, we have about 40 or 50 people here and such, and things. The truth of the matter is, I don't know if I can handle, 150, 200 people. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could. But could you imagine 2 million? Can you imagine these Jews had lived in Egypt all their life? These Jews knew nothing but the things of the world. These Jews were worldly people. Can you imagine trying to lead a group of rebellious people like that? Moses endured great trials and great temptations and great afflictions and many setbacks, only to become one of the greatest leaders of faith mentioned in the Bible. So when we look at Moses' life and we look at what he's endured, I think it would be wise for us to say, how did Moses do it? How did Moses endure all these things? How did Moses take and endure the setbacks of going to Pharaoh and saying, Pharaoh, God, I'm here on behalf of God, and he said, let my people go so that we could go and sacrifice unto him. And if you don't do it, God's going to take care of you. And Pharaoh pretty much said, prove it. And he goes in, he turns water to blood, but it didn't work. In fact, Pharaoh made it even harder on the people. Pharaoh made it even worse on the people. And then, the blood and the frogs and the flies and the lice and the plague of beasts and the darkness and the hail. It's all of those things. How did he do it? How did he do it? I think it's fair and it would be wise for us to find out, how did Moses endure? You realize in 2 Timothy that tells us that we're commanded to endure? 2 Timothy 2:3 says, endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. We're commanded to endure. We're not commanded to throw in the towel. We're not commanded to quit. We're not commanded to just give up. We're not commanded to do that. We are commanded to endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. But if you read on and later in that same chapter, 2 Timothy 2, verse number 10, it tells us why. It tells us what happened. We are to endure not for our sake, but for those watching us who are unsaved, so they can see our faith. That's why we are to endure. Now, so God has given us a command as children of His to endure the hardships, to endure the heartaches, to endure the pains and the sufferings, to endure the persecution, to endure these things. Since God has given us that command, we all know He does not give us a command in which He does not give us a way to obey that command. So how is it? How then can we endure these temptations? How can we endure these trials in our life? How can we endure these testings in our life? How can we endure these setbacks in our life? How can we do it? I tell you, we should endure it the same way Moses did. The same way Moses did. Look again with me at verse number 27. The Bible says here, for he endured, look at this, as seeing him who is invisible. Now let me ask you a question. If something is invisible, can it be seen? No. You say, wait a minute. Then what the Bible's saying here is wrong. No, it's not. You see, Moses endured as. The important word there is the word as. Moses endured as seeing him who is invisible, not by seeing him who is invisible. Moses didn't endure by seeing God face to face. Moses didn't endure by holding the hand of God as God led him through things. Moses didn't endure by seeing God who is invisible, because he's invisible. Moses endured as seeing God who is invisible. Think about it. You know that's what faith is? That's what faith is. Look at Hebrews there in 11:1. Look at this. Now faith is the substance or confidence of things hoped for, the evidence, which is proof, of things not seen. Whoa. Faith is the evidence or proof of things not seen. Think about that, folks. Think about that. Hey, go back to 2 Kings. Let me show you something back here. A good example of this. Go back to 2 Kings chapter number 2, or chapter number 6. Go back to 2 Kings chapter number 6. 2 Kings chapter number 6. We'll start with verse number 8. Then the king of Syria warred against Israel and took counsel with his servants, saying, in such and such a place shall be my camp. The man of God sent unto the king of Israel, saying, beware that thou pass not such a place, for thither the Syrians are come down. The king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God had told him and warned him of, and saved himself there, not once nor twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was sore troubled for this thing, and he called his servants and said unto them, will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? He thought there was a spy. And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet that is in Israel, telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. And he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he thither horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? And he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed, and the Lord said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses, and chariots of fire round about Elijah. Elijah had been advising the king of Israel how to escape the Syrians. The Syrians think the king thinks it's somebody inside his camp and next to him. They said, no, it's Elisha. He's hearing what you are saying even in your bedchamber. The Syrians then, they find Elisha and they surround the city where Elisha and his servants are. And Elisha's servant looks out and sees all these men and their chariots surrounded the city of Dothan. And in fear he asked Elijah, he said, look, Elijah, what are we going to do? And Elisha tells him, hey, don't fear. And Elisha then asked the Lord to open the eyes of the servant so he could see the heavenly host surrounding Elisha and his servant protecting them. Now, I believe with all my heart, I believe Elisha endured this trial not by waking up and seeing God's host protecting them, but as seeing God's host protecting them. I don't believe that Elisha even saw them, but he knew they were there. I don't believe that Elisha saw one of those before he prayed to God and asked God to open the eyes of his servant, but he knew they were there. You see, Elisha saw Elijah's work of faith and saw God working through him enough to where he did not have to physically see the host guarding him to know they were guarding him. And Elisha then asked God to open the eyes of his servant so he could see the host. And what I'm saying to you this morning is we too, when we face trials, when we face temptations, when we face setbacks in life, we need to, by faith, believe that God is right there with us, standing guard. Amen. God is right there with us, lifting us up. God is right there with us, taking us by the hand. God is right there with us, guiding us to where we need to go. Even though we cannot see Him physically, we, by faith, know He's there. I have been saved now since I got saved in 1980. So I've been saved now 35 years. And I have seen enough evidence of things not seen to know that even though I can't see God physically, I can live as if I do see Him. Even though that I cannot see God that surrounds me, I know that He has never left me. Even though that I cannot take God's hand and have Him guide me wherever I need to go, I know that He's there with me. Even though I cannot see God take and open doors and clear pathways for me, I know that He's there guiding me. I know it. I know it. This evidence is the works of faith of others, as well as when God has proved Himself to me through my works of faith in my life. I know this. Why can I be sure? Now, 35 years ago, I couldn't have done that. 35 years ago, if a trial came up in my life, I couldn't have been so sure as I am today. 35 years ago, I couldn't have done it. But I'm telling you, as you go through trials in your life and you see God work in your life, you see it. You don't physically see God work, but you don't physically see Him doing it, but He does. He gets you through. He provides the way. He protects, He helps, He carries you, He helps you, and you've seen it in your life. As you see these things, and it helps your faith to grow to say, you know what? I know He's there. I know He's there. I know He's there. And as you see God work in the lives of others through their faith and see what God does for them as they go through a trial, an affliction in their life, and you see how they go through it and how they persevere and how God protects them, or how God provides for them, or what God does, it gives them the grace that they need, and that God shows the mercy that they need. All of these things, as you watch others' faith, you too can say, you know what? I see God working. I don't physically see God, but I know that He's there. I've seen it. I see His work. I see His work. You see, we endure the things of life. We endure the hardships. We endure the temptations. We endure the difficulties in life. We endure the pains of getting old. We endure all of these things of life, not seeing God guide us. Not feeling the hand of God on my life. Not feeling God's hand take my hand and guide me through. Not feeling or seeing God physically take and move that car out of the way so that I have a safe path. Not seeing God do this or do that, but as seeing Him do those things. That's how we endure. How am I going to make it? You'll endure as seeing God helping you. Now let me give you 3 things and we're going to the house. Let me give you 3 things. Are you ready? We need to stop looking for a 500-foot Jesus. Stop looking for it. You having some turmoil in your life? Don't wake up in the morning and say, "Okay, you know what? I don't see that 500-foot Jesus out there. I guess He ain't with me. I'm going to be down today. I'm going to be down in the faith today because I don't see He hasn't revealed Himself to me." Stop looking for that. Look. Stop. Well, you know what? I'll just wait for God to open the door. Well, you're not going to see God physically open that door. Why don't you just by faith go through it? Amen. Why don't you just by faith do it? The point being is we're looking too much for God to write something in the sky, like an airplane that writes things in the sky, or an airplane that sends a banner across there. Jim Eddy, please do this from God. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm waiting to know what to do here. I'm waiting on God to open the door. No. Why don't you by faith just do what you know is right? You've got the book. Do what's right in the book. God will guide you. Too many times we're waiting in the sidelines and things, and just waiting on God to open something up, or waiting on God to, almost like you wanting His hand to reach down and say, "Okay, come this way." That's not faith. How much faith would it be if God had to come down here right now and visibly take us, and take us and perform that thing in our life, and have us watch Him perform that? How much faith would that be? That's not faith. God doesn't expect. Look, we need to stop looking for that 500-foot Jesus. Number 2. Realize God is there whether you see Him or not. So quit worrying. It's a hard one. Realize that God is there whether you see Him or not. So quit worrying. Look, Elijah's servant didn't see them at first, did he? But they were still there. Elijah's servant, when he went out and looked outside the city, all he saw was the Syrian host. He didn't see the host of God surrounding that Syrian host, but they were still there. So what we have to do is, whether we see him or not, which you will not, whether we do or not, we need to quit worrying. Realize he's still there. He's still there. Look, I wish I can give you and take the time to give you example after example after example after example. In Bible college, serving him, and Cape Girardeau serving and such, time after time after time, I wish I could tell you how many times we just didn't know where we were going to get this, where we were going to get that, the places that we went in, the protection that God gave us. Time after time after time. But we went knowing God was with us. We didn't wait till we had God and felt the presence of God's hand on us to guide us and go in there, so we know he's protecting us. We just did it. We just went. We just endured. We just kept going. Look, whether you see him or not, he's there. Because he said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Don't you get it? What part of never don't you understand? What part of never? What part of leave or forsake don't you get? As a child of God, the Lord will never leave you nor forsake you. So whether you see him or not, and you're not going to, he's still there. He's still there. Well, I just don't feel the presence. Who said anything about feeling anything? Faith ain't about feelings. That's why you have a lot of churches today that boy, they want you to come in and they want you to feel, I sure feel good when I leave. They help me feel good. Well, that's great. I'm glad. But you know what? Milky Way candy bars makes me feel good too. But if I start eating them every day, I'm going to be about 500 pounds in about a month. Just because something feels good and makes you feel good doesn't mean it's good for you. The truth of the matter is, it's not about feelings. Our faith is not about feelings. It's just a belief. It's a trust that I know God is there. I know that when I put that tithe in, not knowing that I'm going to have, and knowing that I'm not going to be able to pay my bills come Monday and stuff, I'm going to be short. I know that God will take care of it. So I do it anyway. First thing. I told Ned today, I said, it's amazing. I said, I've had 3 funerals the month of January. And praise the Lord, there isn't anybody from this church that has died. And I said, praise the Lord. You don't want anybody to die, but at least they called me for the funerals. I said, we've been able to eat better this month. I said, we'll buy some more extra food. I said, we was even able to get the 10 pork chop thing when it was on sale, get some 10 pork chops. Now, we actually have a few things in the freezer that we're able to stock up on a little bit. If you'd have looked in January 1st, when I looked and I set my budget up for January 1st and what has to be paid and what didn't, we were $600 in the hole. Without buying food. Now, the truth of the matter is, God provides. I don't have to see the way he's going to do it. I don't have to see how he's going to work this out physically. I don't have to see that. He didn't have to show me January 1 that this person is going to die and they're going to have you do the funeral. They don't know you from Adam. They're going to have you do the funeral. That's going to be this much. And by the way, another person that week is going to die. You're going to have 2 in 1 week. And by the way, you take those 2. That's how I'm going to help you pay those bills on Monday. I didn't have to see that. I just know that God is there and that God is faithful and that God provides as long as we are faithful to Him and do what we're told to do and are faithful doing it, God will take care of us. I don't see His hand working physically, but by faith, I endure, I continue. We are faithful as seeing Him. But even if you don't see Him, if you're a child of God and you don't see Him, He's still there. Nah. Now you can't be down. All right, number 3. When you are having problems enduring, ask God to open your eyes and help you see the evidence of things not seen through the works of others. Ask Him. Did not Elisha do that to his servant? He had a problem. He had a problem believing. He had a problem in believing that God was going to protect them. Did not God do it to Elisha's servant? Why wouldn't He do it to you? Look, He will show you His works, the evidence, through faith in others. And even in your past experiences as well. How do you get through it? Well, I remember back in Bible college where, we didn't have money for a school bill and didn't have money for rent and such. And I remember what God did right when it happened. He sent a check. And that check was for what we needed to pay the bill. I remember it. God did. I remember it. So then I know now that God will do it again. You see what I'm saying? God, show me. And He reveals to you those times. Remember? Back in Longview? Look, we got money from a Methodist church one time. And it was exactly what we needed to get the bills paid that we had. I remember one time we had a car that was about ready to go. I bought it here. It was that station wagon, that Oldsmobile S-Series station wagon. And this thing was getting to a point where it was starting to really nickel and dime us and everything else. I'm thinking, Lord, what are we going to do? We don't have the money to go out and buy a car. And then one night, my wife was going home or coming to pick me up with the kids in the car. And somebody ran a red light and hit her. And totaled the car. Nobody was hurt. But we were able to get enough money from that car to go out and get another car from the insurance. So I thought it was just a coincidence. No, it's not. It's God. I didn't see, she didn't see God come down and guide that car to have that kid run that stoplight. But God did it. And I'm just saying, when you get to a point where you're thinking, oh God, how am I going to get through this? Help me, show me that you're there. Show me something. And He reveals to you in your mind, remember when I did this for you? Oh, yeah. Now I know. Thank you. And you can endure as seeing Him who is invisible. Not by seeing Him who is invisible. Because then that's not faith. How do you endure? Just like Moses. Realize that God is there, and God will protect you. God will guide you. God will fulfill His promises because He's God. Even though you don't see Him, He's there. He's there. How do you know? Because all the times I've seen Him do what He's done for us in our 35 years. Look, even before, I got to thinking about this the other day. Even before I was saved, I should have been dead. I cannot tell you. I know of at least 3 or 4 times I should have been dead. 3 or 4 times before I got saved. One time I was so drunk I was driving down the highway on the other side of the road in the ditch going 50 mile an hour, 55 mile an hour this way on their side of the road in the ditch with cars coming this way. Should have been dead. Or at least thrown in jail. One time I got so drunk drinking vodka and squirt at one bowling league, all during that whole league. And then I went to another bowling league across town, drunk as a skunk, and started drinking a beer. And I went home and I crawled up the steps, and I lay there that night and I threw up in my sleep. For some reason, I turned over, and praise the Lord, God made sure I didn't choke on my own vomit. One night I was so drunk, some people dropped me off at home, and went to, and they took off, and I passed out in the driveway by the bush. My brother comes home drunk all the time, and he normally would pull up there. He would have ran me over that night, but for some reason he did not. You think that was a coincidence? No. God was watching over me. And I wasn't even saved. But He knew one day I would. And He knew one day I'd be preaching the gospel. So if He would save and keep me safe when I was an unsaved heathen doing stupid things, why wouldn't He keep me safe now? Why wouldn't He protect me now? Look, endure. We're commanded to do it. And the secret is do it like Moses, as seeing Him who is invisible. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for your goodness. Thank you for your love. Lord, I pray you please just bless, Lord. Lord, you know what everybody's going through here. I know a few. Lord, I pray you please just help them. Lord, I pray you please help us all, Lord, to endure as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. And Lord, the only way we're going to have the strength to do that is by enduring as seeing you, who is invisible, there with us, guiding us, protecting us, leading us, watching over us. Please help us, Lord, I pray. Well, we can't afford to have any more Christians leave the battlefield. Can't afford it. This country is going down the tubes quickly. Well, we need more and more to get in the fight. Help us, Lord, I pray, please.